Lust and gluttony. That is our two deadly sins today, or character defects if you like, that we're going to speak about. Lust and gluttony. What is lust? Most people, when they hear the word lust, they think of sex. And I must admit that's what I think of too. But you can lust for life, you can lust for money, you can lust for power, you can lust for fame, you can lust for many different things. But usually it's geared toward sexual desires. Let's see what the definition of lust is here. That's gluttony. Here we go. Lust. A very strong sexual desire. That's the definition here. That is I'm not sure if that's the Webster's, it doesn't say. Having a very strong sexual desire for someone. But it goes on to say, lust is a psychological force producing intense desire for something or circumstance while already having significant amount of the desired object. Excuse me. Lust can take any form, such as the lust for sexuality, money, or power. Now, I understand the word lust. I understand lust. I've lusted for women in my life. I remember when I was younger, I was married. I had a steady girlfriend. And I had another steady girlfriend, plus I was dating other girls. Now they all knew I was doing this, but how much is enough? How much is enough? If a guy's going out and he's got a notch count, let's say of 100, 200 girls, 300 girls, how much is enough? What is he really trying to do? What is his goal? What is he trying to satisfy? And that's a question we have to ask ourselves when we lust for anything. If we've got $1 million, 10 million, a billion, 5 billion, why do we need more? What is the reason we're pursuing more or trying to accomplish more or get more? I know for me, I like the pleasure, of course, of being with a woman. I still like the pleasure of being with a woman. Of course I do. But I don't chase women like I used to. But I know for me it was more of how would I say, a conquest, acquiring a form of security, because the more women I had, I was never without my, how would I say, my fix, I could say it that way, because being with a woman made me feel better about myself. I didn't realize it at the time, and this is just my case. I'm not saying this is you. If you have a lot of women, or have a harem situation, or you've been with a lot of women. But I know for me, it gave me a sense of security, because I knew if I lost one, I always had another one. And there's a certain logic to that. If you're dating a girl and you're just dating her and you're dating other girls, you don't get so needy with that one girl. But I think the goal there is not so much to have other girls so you don't feel needy about another girl or about the girl you're dating that you like, because then you're becoming dependent on something else. In this case, the other girls you're dating, so you don't become dependent on the one that you really like that you're dating. I'm getting confusing here. But if you have to depend on these 2 or 3 girls that you're dating, not to become dependent on this girl that you're dating that you really like and want something with, then your dependence is on how these other 3 girls act towards you. What if they would just happen to meet other guys and dump you? How are you going to feel then? That's basically what happened to me. One of my studies, who I liked more than I thought I did, she didn't dump me, but she started seeing this other guy. So it really crushed my ego. So inside, I felt like I was nothing. I felt like I wasn't the man anymore. Even though my friend said, "You're the man," I didn't feel like the man. And if you don't feel like or believe you are, then guess what? You project that into your outer world. So in my case, and like I said, this is just my case, but I've seen other people do it too. I had too much unhealthy dependence upon this one girl for my sense of self. And I didn't realize it at the time, even though I had other girls on the line. When she started cheating on me and I walked away from her, I didn't feel like I was the man that I thought I was, because my dependence was on how many girls I had and which ones I had. And I see that with guys. I don't think they realize it, because as long as you have all those girls on the line or the string or in your rotation, I think as they call it nowadays, you don't feel like you need any of them. But I believe the reality is you need all of them. Because what if they just disappeared? And then all of a sudden you couldn't find another girl, or you had a hard time finding a girl or girls that were equal value in your eyes as the ones you had in the past. It's really not just with women or money or anything. When you become too dependent on something outside yourself to give you your sense of self, your self-esteem, and your self-worth, you're setting yourself up for disaster, for a crash. And you don't realize it until the crash comes, until you're in a season of lack, or where things don't happen the way you want them to, or you become emotionally involved with one of the girls or more than one of the girls, more than you actually believe that you were, because you were distracted by all these other women you're dating. So it's really kind of getting away from lust and getting more into dependence, unhealthy dependence. But lust can lead you there. And you don't even realize it's lust. Now that's lust for women, sexuality. Lust for money can lead you away from all things that are important to you. Time with your family, time to yourself, your health, peace of mind. There are many people who have millions of dollars who are poorer than people who have much less money, because they have no peace. I know that lately, when the banks started closing, a friend of mine is a vice president of a certain bank, and he said that the people that were contacting him the most, of course, were the people with the most money. And he tells me that those are the people that are the most insecure, because it's very easy to become dependent on your money as your source of security. And once again, you're depending on something outside of yourself. Now, it's good to have a nest egg. It's good to have money in the bank, because more attracts more. But when that becomes your source of self, your sense of self, your value, then you're placing your value. You're placing the root of your value on something outside of yourself. So let's say you wake up tomorrow morning and the money's not worth anything. That has happened before. It happened in Venezuela. It may not have happened in one night, but it happened. They weigh their money instead of counting it out, because it's so worthless. Here in the U.S., when we had the Civil War, the Confederate dollar became valueless. Also here in the 20s, was it, or the 30s, we had the failing of the banks. And if you had money in the bank, it was gone. You couldn't get it. So there again, people were jumping from the towers of high finance. So think about that. Well, that's all I'm going to say about lust. Let's go on to gluttony. Gluttony. Boy, we have a gluttony problem here in the U.S. Now, if you're overweight or you overeat, hey, I've been there. I'm not condemning you. I've suffered from gluttony, and gluttony could be as minor as eating 2 more cookies when you're already full. That's gluttony. It doesn't have to go to the extreme where you're way overweight or you're obese and it's threatening your health. Now, we do have that here in the U.S., gluttony. And why are they glutton? Why are they gluttonizing themselves? Not sure if that's a word. Because they want the pleasure of the food, the pleasure that the food gives you. Now, it's okay to eat for pleasure, but if you're eating for pleasure all the time, well, we see what happens. 70 to 75% overweight or obese, a statistic of people here in the United States, and the health problems and everything that goes along with that. Being overweight is not healthy. Some people like it as far as being attractive. Some people think that's attractive. Some people don't. I myself like women that are in shape and on the thin side. Not thin like a waif model, but thin. So gluttony is something too that just satisfies a certain pleasure inside of each person, or sometimes it satisfies an emptiness. They try to fill an emptiness they have in their lives with food. Because while you're eating and when it tastes good, you temporarily escape from how you feel, how things are bothering you. I've done that. I had a problem with that years ago, back in my early 20s, because I binged and purged to make weight for boxing. And I would eat on the weekends until I felt sick, and I would even eat some more. And that developed into the binging purging. I got up to about 184 pounds. Nobody else said I was fat, but I felt fat. My legs would rub together when I ran. God, I just hated the way I looked. For me, it was terrible. And I just couldn't stop eating. I would pig out all day and feel like crap, and I would eat some more to feel better. And really looking back in retrospect, it was just to cover up fear and certain things about myself I didn't like. As the years passed, I found a way to, how would I say, get rid of the garbage inside of me that was causing me to eat. And I ate, as I said, because I wanted to push those things down in me that I didn't feel good about. Guilt, shame, anger, remorse, regret, all those nasty bedfellows that haunt our minds. And all these things, even lust sometimes, lust, greed, envy, these things help us to focus on something outside of ourselves so we don't have to look within. And you must look within and clean this crap out to have any kind of a decent life with contentment. Now, I'm not talking about contentment that where you don't do anything or you don't pursue more. I think we're made to have goals, we're made to pursue more. But if you're pursuing more to give yourself a sense of security or a sense of self-worth, then that is the wrong reason to pursue more. Your self-worth should come from within you. Yeah, obviously you're going to do things, you're going to accomplish things, and you're going to feel good about yourself. That is normal and right to do that. But if you feel like you got to get another $1 million, or you got to run 10 more miles, or you got to knock 10 seconds off of that 5K time, or you got to lift another 5 pounds on that squat, or whatever it happens to be, to feel good about yourself, my question is this: when will it be enough? Where will you have to get to before you will feel okay? When will you be good enough? One more piece of cake? One more rep? One more mile? One more victory? Another $1,000 a week raise? What's it going to take before you're good enough? I say you're good enough right now. And as I said earlier, that's not to say you shouldn't strive for more, because as men, we derive fulfillment from the pursuit of more, from expansion. I've said this before. If you're not expanding, you're contracting. And when you're expanding, you're pursuing more, you're growing. And it's not so much about what you get, it's who you become in the process. And if you're not expanding, you're contracting. And contraction leads to depression. And depression leads to death in many cases. If not death of the body, death of the spirit, death of your soul, if you like. Death to any kind of life that has any kind of fulfillment or pleasure. And as I said, not a pleasure that leads to misery. There can be pleasure in watching the sunset, or driving through the country as the leaves and the grass and everything turns green in the spring. Pleasure from listening to music. There are many pleasures in life that we can enjoy that are not detrimental to our health or our state of mind or emotional health. These are the pleasures I'm speaking of. Everything in moderation. Sexual pleasures are fine too. But if you got to go out there and get laid every day, or you're having sex 4 or 5 times a day, more than likely that might be a little bit of an addiction for you. I'm not here to orchestrate your sexual life or to tell you what's enough or what's not enough, but you have to look at the reasons why are you doing it, and how do you feel afterwards? Are you feeling drained, or are you feeling empowered? Are you doing it just to get that temporary fix, that temporary pleasure, like a hit of crack cocaine? I've never done that, but that's what I've heard. What are your reasons? Or are you doing it because you love your partner and you're both enjoying this and you're both feeling fulfilled about it? I would think if you were doing it 3 or 4 times a day, I've got friends that used to do that. I would think you would be a little drained, but hey, maybe that works for you. I was never one to be doing it that much, but I did enjoy it. It did become a pleasure and a lustful adventure for me, which eventually led to a reevaluation of my life. But that's just me. Everybody's different. I'm not here to, as I said, orchestrate your life as far as lust goes or gluttony. If you enjoy eating food and you're willing to pay the price for it and you're gaining weight and getting obese, that's your choice. I'm just telling you that there are other ways and other avenues and things that you can do that will probably bring you more fulfillment than that. But as I said, the choice is always yours. Take what you need and leave the rest. That's all I got for today. Thanks for joining me. Share this with a friend if you think it will be of value to them. And I will see you guys later. Take care.